Your Eminence, what say ye?
Mike? I officially resign.
In that case, until a date is set for an interim election, if Lee agrees,
Well, he does.
I could appoint you mayor pro tem.
Oh, that has a nice ring to it.
Excellent. Lee, you're appointed.
Congratulations.
Well, I think it's probably a double-edged sword because obviously he ran for mayor before and didn't win. So I think he feels winning this way is a little cheap. But then I think after reflection, he probably thinks sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles and you got to take it when it happens. And if you want to look at an acting analogy, I mean, there's countless of, great performances where the actors were never supposed to get that job. They were offered to 5 or 6 other people first, and now they're iconic. So I think Lee just decides to magnanimously slide into the role because it is sort of what he sees for himself. It's kind of a calling, and I guess sometimes it doesn't matter how it comes about, just that it comes about. Maybe that's the key right there, is he wanted it too much before, and then he had some time to reflect about it. And maybe, I don't know, sometimes when we think we want something really bad, we kid ourselves into thinking we're ready, but we really need a little bit more reflection. And then when you don't get it, sometimes the disappointment from not getting something helps you reflect on it a little bit more and you see it a little more clearly. So maybe having lost it already and not won it, maybe he'll come into it with a little bit more maturity. Well, that was the running joke last season where everybody's talking about, well, how many more jobs can this guy take? Or between the two of them, Lee and Rosie, how many more things can they pile on? So you've got all the professional stuff, obviously, and then you've got a baby and all that comes with that. And so, yes, there is definitely, in my own personal life as Kavan Smith, I can't handle that much. Just the kids and a job, and I'm tapped. So I don't know how Lee does it, but one of the things that I've always tried to aim for with Lee is sort of this kind of nothing gets him down quality, that he's just sort of, no matter what happens, he's buoyant and he doesn't get upset and he doesn't, there's been some ebbs and flows of that over the seasons, but I think that part of what the comedy is too with Lee and Rosemary is they get in over their heads a lot and then they rely on basically on their relationship to get them through and the relationship with everybody in the town, but they constantly take on too much. When it was pitched to us, that was where we saw the comedy, like taking on too much, spreading themselves too thin. And then, so I think that really is sort of what happens initially. Like they just take on all these things, like, with like the kind, decent people they are, always trying to help out. And then they find themselves spread so thin. And I think that for Pascal and I, we've always thought that the gold for these two was she's kind of the zanier character. He helps balance her. So there's lots of comedy, but interspersed with moments of, deep feeling and heart. And that's sort of what we've always liked. So I'm thinking that him becoming mayor and tying in, and the saloon and all these things, they'll probably wear themselves thin and then they'll realize what's important. That seems to be the pattern with these two. Well, and it was pitched to me the season before. Well, pitch is a weird word because that implies that I had some say. I didn't really have a say. I could say, oh, I like it or not. They don't really care. But I liked it because it sort of it's kind of the center spot of the town. Small towns like that had two places. They had the church, and then they had the main sort of saloon or meeting area or town hall. So this is kind of this is Hope Valley's main place. And when Lee kind of went, for the last several seasons trying to find himself and sort of saw this sort of role as a community leader and helping people, it's a good place. It's a good intersection for that because everybody's in there all the time and you hear somebody talking at this table or at the bar and people are always coming and going. So it was pitched to me that we want to put Lee at the center of all this. So he's kind of the guy that people go to get insight from or counsel from or advice from. So that really appeals to me as an actor, because it just means that Lee gets to be sort of a part of everybody's life. And but I wasn't 100% sure, because now we have the sawmill, which we never stopped. We have the newspaper, which we never stopped. Now we own a saloon, and now he's the acting mayor. That is a lot of careers for one person. So we'll see what happens. Well, that's one of those questions that's above my pay grade. I can guess, and I could say maybe, but in the rest of the season, I think it's still kind of up in the air. I know Lee wants the job, and I have talked to some people about where this goes, because he doesn't win the job. He just kind of gets the acting mayor job, and it's through a bunch of circumstances. And so I know that I would like Lee to end up as the mayor, but who knows what's going to happen long term. So I actually know the actress that played Hickham's sister, and I've known Sam Ferris for years and years, and she was a perfect choice because she's a real tough screw. Funny, very funny, and she does a great job as Maisy, and I think that Lee is exasperated because he can't imagine somebody that would be so hard to deal with and so impossible to deal with. So I think he thought it was just going to be a cakewalk. She's got to be something like Michael, and Michael's just so easygoing. So it's going to be an interesting ride. But like everything in Hope Valley, over time, usually community and goodwill perseveres. So we'll see what happens. I think Lee underestimated just how difficult she was going to be to work with, and I think he's pretty exasperated. But we find out, maybe I shouldn't go too far with this, but Maisy is definitely coming at it from a good place. Like, she's not getting into this to try and be a hard screw. She's got some reasons behind what she's doing, and I think that eventually the two of them probably come to terms and figure it out. Being a co-mayor, I imagine, would be very, very challenging to do. You're supposed to be the person who has the say, and especially, or the governor in a small town like this. The co-mayor thing, I think, is also another opportunity for humor, because Sam plays the character so uptight and so protective of her town, and we do some fun stuff with it this season. Well, we've had so many seasons where we're tied at the hip, and I kind of love that, because she's one of my best friends, and we just kind of work is so easy for us when it's just the two of us in a scene. But now we're expanding, and she's involved with Jack Wagner and in solving crimes, and Lee's doing his thing with the saloon and the mayorship. So, and then we have the baby. So there's a lot of stuff going on that I think makes the relationship stronger. I think sometimes when it's just the two, even though I love shooting those days, and those are generally the most fun, doing other things and bringing that back to the couple it makes their relationship stronger. And you get, even though it's acting and it's a fairy tale, we bring those things back to the core relationship, the two of them, and it makes them stronger, and there's more depth to it. We did some scenes this season, and I can't remember what episodes they were in, but we did some scenes where we're just sitting, and we improv'd a fair bit of this, but we just talked like the characters about what we've done and what we hadn't done, and there was a weight to it that maybe didn't appear in previous seasons, because I think we're doing things outside of just Lee and Rosie. So I love doing that, and I think that there's plans to keep that moving. See what happens. No, it's totally not possible. And I think that's definitely comedic, but it also sets itself up to be dramatic and heartfelt. And that's, like, if you think about it, I have 2 kids and I have a wife, and nothing has been ordinary or easy at any step. It always just is what it is, and you have to deal with it as it comes. And I think that even though these two could say, oh, well, if I don't take this job or we don't take this, then everything will just be easy, but it's never easy, no matter how many other things you take on in life. So I think with these two, yes, they spread themselves thin, but in the end, it's TV and it always seems to work out. One of the big keys was working with Goldie, and that working with babies is really touchy, and I don't think they wanted us to have a baby. I don't think the producers or anybody wanted that, because it is hard, and you're at the whim of a baby. And our show is a very low budget show. We don't have a lot of extra time for setups and stuff. So if a baby's in a bad mood, that costs a lot of money, and on our show it really can create a problem. But Pascal was just so persistent and insisting that this happen, and she was right, and we found this baby, Ellie, who was just such a cute, adorable kid. And on our first block, the first couple episodes that we shot, she was teething, and it looked like it was going to backfire, and she just didn't want to cooperate. She didn't want to play, and she was grumpy and a little afraid. And I mean, imagine being like just a little baby and walking onto a set of 100 people or whatever it is, a bunch of lights, a bunch of big old chubby dudes with carts and lights and stuff, and she was wigged out a bit. But because she's such a brave little kid, she immediately started to bond with us. And after the first few episodes, the teething was over, and then she just super interested in everything, super curious. So my answer to your question is that I think that the family dynamic is the most interesting thing. All those other things are fun and interesting, but those little moments, the little moments you get with a kid, because they steal everything. If you get a nice, generous moment with a baby, it steals everything. Nothing else exists. And we got a few with Goldie this season. So I think, for me, it's all about the family and them growing as a family. There's a lot that happens in the season, and I think that if the fans out there like Lee or enjoy Lee and Rosemary and Goldie, I think they're going to enjoy the rest of the season. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of humor between these two, but we have some great heartfelt moments, and that's always the balance for Pascal and I, is to find that nice, happy middle ground. So there is a lot more of that coming up. Definitely, I think Lee is absolutely worried about Rosemary, but I think he's always worried about Rosemary, because she's always in over her head, and she's like flying by the seat of her pants all the time. And I think he's kind of gotten used to it. So yes, I think he worries, but I think that he has to downplay it a little bit, because it's not going to change. He's not gonna suddenly get her to slow down anytime soon. She goes to the beat of her own drum. Essentially, yeah, it's just what you said. There's so many balls in the air, but I think it's going to be making sense of this. We've been on this arc with Lee for a long time about trying to find something meaningful in his life other than just Rosemary and now Goldie. Something that he does that's purposeful and that gives his life meaning. And I think that's still a driving force, and I think that's why he keeps taking on all these projects. But it'll all have to circle back to the family unit in the end. So I think that's the challenge, is how is he going to be successful at all these things? And if he's going to be at the intersection of everything in the saloon, how is he going to help those people but not sort of ignore his own family? I think that's really going to be the tightrope that he walks. I really enjoyed being Lee this season. Yes, for balancing all that stuff, but on just a complete tangent, my kids are almost grown, and so having a baby again was really fun. It was really sweet, and having such a nice, friendly, confident, curious kid, every day was kind of like, it was like I was babysitting, but in the best way. Normally with Pascal, I'm babysitting all the time, but now it's with a baby, and it's actually a little bit more fun. So I think the most fun I had this season were the scenes with Ellie playing Goldie. Those were just so much fun. It's not easy because babies don't do what you tell them to do. You got to work around it, but in the end, it makes it so much fun. And I've said this like hundreds of times over the years, but our show in my mind is the little show that could. We just somehow keep chugging along, and I think it's entirely because of the Hardys supported. Without them, there's no show, and I think they love this idea of community coming together and seeing something positive and people not pushing each other aside but coming together. And I think that we just keep chugging along, and it's really kind of special to be a part of it. And yeah, it's like, I don't know. On my first day, one of the actors, who will remain nameless, said, "Don't ever quit this show. Don't ever quit this show. We're gonna go for a long time." And I was like, I don't even understand what this show's about. I don't know what's going on. This is the weirdest place in the world. And he's like, yes, it is, but the fans love it, so stick around. And then Pascal and I became friends, and then the next thing you know, here we are all these seasons later. And I'm certainly hoping that we continue, because it's been a hell of a ride. I've enjoyed it so much. It's everything that you come to expect from Hope Valley. There's romance, there's love, there's humor, there's a little bit of action, and unlike some other seasons that tie up just a little too tightly, there's some things here that definitely need answering moving into another season. So if we're lucky enough, we definitely have great storylines ahead. And then for Lee and Rosemary, the hope is again that they would push this family forward and see where Goldie takes them, and we'll see if Rosemary keeps this kind of crime-solving thing going, and see what other jobs Lee can grab. Maybe he can come on Mount. Maybe he'll be a Mountie next. No, I think that one crime solver in the family's enough. But maybe you get a part-time job in the soda shop or the mercantile. I don't know. Just pile something else on those shoulders. My Hardy's cup, by the way. That was a complete accident, random accident.